Let me ask you something straight up. Have you ever noticed how a woman can forget the guy she dated for months, maybe even years, but she will never, ever forget that one man who stood out from the rest? The one who didn't play by her rules? The one who shook her world a little? The one who left an imprint so deep in her mind that no matter how much time passes, his presence still echoes in her thoughts? Yeah. That's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. See, most men spend their entire lives trying to make women happy, trying to impress them, trying to be nice, and follow the script that society has written for them. But here's where it gets controversial. Women don't remember those guys. The man who bends over backwards, buys the flowers, answers her texts in 5 seconds, and never says no. She forgets him like last week's grocery list. Harsh? Maybe. But real? Absolutely. The men women never forget are the ones who did something different. They didn't try to be the safe option. They didn't walk on eggshells. Instead, they made her feel emotions so powerful, sometimes exciting, sometimes frustrating, sometimes challenging, that she couldn't ignore them even if she wanted to. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because here's the thing. If you're a man who truly wants to stand out in a woman's mind, if you want to be unforgettable, not just another nice guy she once knew, you have to understand what triggers female psychology at a deeper level. You need to know the 5 things that make a woman never forget you. Not for a week, not for a month, not even for a year. I'm talking about the kind of impression that lingers in her heart and mind long after you've walked away. And before you think this is about manipulation, no, this is about awareness. Because once you understand how female psychology works, you'll stop wasting time doing what doesn't work and start doing what actually makes you stand out. So if you're ready, let's break it down. I'm going to show you the 5 things women will never forget in a man. And trust me, once you learn this, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. 1. She never forgets the man who walked away. First, let's be brutally honest here. Most men are terrified of losing a woman. They cling, they beg, they negotiate, they do everything in their power just to keep her. But here's the twist. The man who actually leaves first, the man who has the strength to walk away even when he still wants her, is the one she never forgets. Think about it. In most relationships, women are used to being the ones who call the shots. They decide when the relationship moves forward, they decide when it ends, and they expect the man to follow her lead. But when a man flips the script, when he's the one who looks at her and says, "You know what? I deserve better. I'm done." That shakes her to her core. It's not what she expected, and it leaves an emotional scar she'll carry for years. Why? Because walking away first sends a clear message. It shows her that you are not dependent on her validation. You are not a man who begs for scraps of attention. You are a man who values his self-respect more than the comfort of staying in a relationship that doesn't serve him. That kind of strength is rare, and rare things are unforgettable. Here's the part that stings. When you walk away first, she suddenly sees all the things she took for granted. Every small effort, every ounce of attention, every part of you that she dismissed, now it hits her like a ton of bricks. She realizes that she lost a man who had the courage most men don't, and that realization doesn't fade. Now let me teach you something important. Walking away first doesn't mean you're playing games or being heartless. It means you've developed the ability to detach from situations that don't align with your worth. It's about discipline, not drama. Because let's face it, most guys stay in relationships long after they should have left. They tolerate disrespect, excuses, and emotional manipulation, hoping things will get better. But the unforgettable man, he doesn't wait around for change. He decides, and he acts. And here's the real psychological trigger. When you walk away first, you're showing her something she never expected: scarcity. Women are wired to chase what feels rare. When you make yourself scarce by leaving, you become the one man she compares every future relationship to. Even if she moves on, even if she dates someone else, deep down, she'll remember the man who had the strength to cut ties on his own terms. So ask yourself this: Do you want to be the man she forgets the moment the relationship ends? Or the man who lives rent-free in her mind because you did the one thing she never expected? You walked away first? 2. She never forgets the man who made her chase. Let me hit you with a truth most men don't want to hear. Women don't value what comes too easily. That's right. When a man is constantly available, constantly giving, constantly chasing, he becomes predictable, and predictability kills attraction. But the man who flips the script, the man who makes her do the chasing, that's the man she never forgets. Think about it. From the time she's a teenager, a woman gets used to men pursuing her. Compliments, texts, attention. It comes to her without effort. She doesn't have to chase, because most men are lined up to win her over. But when she meets a man who doesn't instantly give in, who doesn't shower her with validation, who actually requires her effort to earn his time and attention, she can't stop thinking about him. Why? Because he stands out. He's different. And difference, my friend, is unforgettable. Now let's break down the psychology behind this. Human beings value what requires effort. The harder we work for something, the more we treasure it. Women are no different. If she's chasing you, if she's wondering why you're not texting back immediately, if she's trying to figure out how to impress you, if she's making the moves instead of you, suddenly you become a prize in her eyes. You've shifted the dynamic. You've gone from being just another option to being the challenge. And challenges are addictive. Here's where it gets controversial. Many men believe chasing a woman is the only way to prove interest. But in reality, when you make it too easy, you strip away her excitement. Attraction thrives on tension, on uncertainty, on the unknown. When you don't instantly give her what she expects, when you make her put in effort, you create that emotional tension that makes her obsessed with figuring you out. But let me make this clear. Making her chase doesn't mean playing childish games. It doesn't mean being rude, ignoring her, or manipulating her. It means holding yourself to a standard. It means not dropping your priorities just because she called. It means letting her see that your life is full, that you're not desperate, and that if she wants a place in it, she has to bring value to the table. And here's the beauty of it. Once she experiences the chase, once she feels the thrill of working to win a man's attention, she can never forget it. Why? Because it's rare. 90% of men hand women everything up front, but the man who makes her earn it, even just a little, he lives rent-free in her mind forever. So remember this. Don't be the guy she forgets because you made things too easy. Be the man who flipped her world upside down by making her chase, and she'll never erase you from her memory. 3. She never forgets the man who set boundaries. Let's cut straight to the truth. Most men today are afraid of setting boundaries with women. They fear being called too harsh or too difficult. So they bite their tongue, they tolerate behavior they don't like, and they convince themselves that keeping quiet will make things smoother. But here's the problem. When you don't set boundaries, you become forgettable. When you do set boundaries, you become unforgettable. Why? Because boundaries are a reflection of self-respect. And deep down, every woman notices when a man respects himself enough to stand firm. She may not admit it, she may even push back against it, but she will never forget it. Boundaries are not about control, they're about clarity. They show her that you know who you are, you know what you want, and you're not willing to compromise your values just to keep her around. That kind of strength is rare, and rarity always leaves a mark. Here's the relatable part. Think about how people act when they know they can get away with something. If you never speak up, if you never draw the line, others keep pushing further. But when you finally stand firm, when you make it clear what you will and will not accept, suddenly everything changes. Respect enters the picture, and respect is the foundation of being unforgettable. Women test men, not always consciously, but it happens. They push limits, they challenge your patience, they want to see where your backbone lies, and if you have no boundaries, if you just go along with anything, you fade into the background. But if you have the courage to say, that doesn't work for me, you instantly separate yourself from the rest. That moment sticks in her memory because it shows strength. Boundaries also create balance. They prevent you from losing yourself in the relationship, and they remind her that your world doesn't revolve entirely around her. And that's exactly why she can't forget it. Because most men sacrifice everything just to please a woman, but the man who stands firm, he earns lasting respect, even long after he's gone. At the core, boundaries are about being authentic. They show that you're not pretending, you're not bending over backwards, and you're not afraid of losing her. That authenticity is powerful. It creates an impact that lingers because deep down, she knows she met a man who valued himself enough to draw the line. And that kind of man is impossible to erase from her memory. So remember this. If you want to be unforgettable, don't be afraid to set boundaries. Don't silence yourself to keep the peace. Don't shrink yourself to avoid conflict. Stand tall, stand firm, and stand for something. Because in a world where most men fold under pressure, the man who holds his ground will always be the one she remembers. 4. She never forgets the man who didn't fear losing her. Here's a tough pill to swallow. Too many men today live in constant fear of losing a woman. They adjust their behavior, hide their true feelings, and walk on eggshells just to avoid conflict. And let's be honest, that fear doesn't make you attractive. It makes you forgettable. A man who is terrified of losing her will never be the one she remembers. But the man who wasn't afraid to lose her, that's the man who stays in her mind forever. Why is that? Because fear of loss is the opposite of strength. When you're afraid of losing her, you're not leading with confidence. You're leading with desperation. Women sense that energy immediately. It's like a shadow that follows you into every interaction. You hesitate, you overthink, you give too much, and little by little you start losing yourself. And once you lose yourself, she loses respect for you. Now let me give you some straight talk. Men need to wake up. You cannot build your identity around a woman. You cannot act as if her presence defines your worth. When you do that, you hand over all your power. And once she feels that imbalance, she knows you're replaceable. And trust me, no woman truly remembers the man who lived in fear of losing her. But when a man isn't afraid to walk away, when he carries himself with the mindset that I'll be fine with or without you, everything changes. That kind of man is dangerous in the best way possible because he doesn't cling, he doesn't beg, he doesn't sacrifice his dignity for temporary comfort. And that strength makes an unforgettable impression. This doesn't mean you don't value her. It doesn't mean you don't care. What it means is you know your life has meaning beyond her. You know that your mission, your growth, and your purpose matter more than clinging to someone out of fear. And here's the truth. When a woman sees that, when she feels that you won't collapse without her, she not only respects you more, but she also remembers you long after you're gone. So here's my advice. Stop living in fear. Stop thinking losing her is the end of your world. Start thinking about what kind of man you are with or without her. Because the moment you stop fearing loss, you gain power, and power is unforgettable. At the end of the day, women never forget the man who wasn't afraid to lose them. Why? Because he showed her something rare: independence, self-respect, and courage. And those 3 qualities leave an imprint that time can't erase. 5. She never forgets the man who made her feel deep emotions, good or bad. Here's a truth you can't ignore. Women don't remember the man who kept everything safe, predictable, and bland. They don't hold on to memories of the guy who never made their heart race, who never challenged them, who never left them feeling something powerful. The men they never forget are the ones who made them feel deep emotions, whether those emotions were good or bad. Why? Because human memory is tied to emotional intensity. Think about your own life. You don't remember the boring days where nothing happened. You remember the moments where you felt something strong: joy, excitement, heartbreak, even anger. Those moments stay with you forever. It's the same with women. When a man makes her feel something that shakes her world, she can't erase him from her mind. This is where most men go wrong. They confuse keeping the peace with being unforgettable. They try so hard not to upset her, not to rock the boat, not to challenge her in any way. And what happens? They become invisible, safe, comfortable, but forgotten. Women don't crave neutrality. They crave intensity. They crave the highs and even the occasional lows that remind them they're alive. Now let me be clear, this doesn't mean you should intentionally create drama. It doesn't mean mistreating her or causing unnecessary conflict. What it means is you live authentically. You express yourself honestly. You don't hide your passion, your fire, or your truth just to keep things calm. Because when you're real, when you bring both light and shadow into the relationship, she experiences you on a deeper level. And that depth is unforgettable. Here's something men need to understand. Emotional impact is stronger than logic. A woman might logically know you were good for her, but if she never felt any intensity with you, she will move on and never look back. But if you stirred emotions inside her, whether excitement, desire, frustration, or deep connection, she will think of you long after the relationship is over. You become a reference point in her life, and this is exactly why she never forgets the man who made her feel deeply. Because even if it wasn't perfect, even if there were challenges, those emotions carved a space in her memory that no one else can replace. So here's the lesson. Stop being afraid of emotional depth. Stop thinking that the safest path is the most effective. The man who leaves the biggest mark is the one who wasn't afraid to be real, raw, and unapologetically himself. He didn't try to make her comfortable every second. He made her feel. And those feelings, whether good or bad, are what she carries with her forever. At the end of the day, women never forget the man who awakened something inside them. And if you want to be unforgettable, don't focus on being perfect. Focus on being real enough to leave an emotional mark that time can't erase. So, what have we really uncovered here? Women don't remember the man who gave them everything on a silver platter. They don't remember the man who chased endlessly, who lived in fear of losing them, or who erased himself just to keep them happy. No, the men they remember, the men who live rent-free in their minds, are the ones who stood firm, walked away when necessary, set boundaries, carried themselves without fear, and left her feeling emotions so strong that forgetting him is impossible. Now here's the controversial truth most people don't want to admit. Women don't truly respect the man who makes his entire life about them. That's right, society tells men to put her first in everything. But in reality, the man who does that becomes invisible. The man who earns respect, desire, and long-lasting memory is the one who puts his purpose and self-respect first, and lets her decide if she can rise to meet that standard. That's what women will never say out loud, but it's what they feel. And this is why I want you to stop and think, are you living as the man she'll forget the moment you're gone, or the man she'll never be able to erase? I want to hear from you. Drop your experiences, your stories, your thoughts down in the comments. Do you agree with this? Do you think women really never forget these kinds of men? I'll be reading, I'll be responding, and I want to build a real connection with you guys, because your experiences are just as important as the lessons shared here. At the end of the day, becoming unforgettable isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, strong, and unafraid of standing out.